use the Force, Luke.
Sometimes truth isn't good enough.
I feel the need for speed.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna?
Cause it's their time. Their time. Up there. Down here, it's our time. It's our time down here.
I'm up. Sorry. Hold on. Just watching a new show. It did a number on me. I had to recover. Wasn't sure if it was the diabetes acting up or not, but I think it was the show. Anyways, we're going to bring King Z in. We got a new show for you guys this week. I was just kidding. We're going to be doing a little Dune prophecy. Now, for those of you that don't know, much as I didn't know, I didn't know the show was a thing. I'll be honest with you. I didn't know this was a thing until about 2 weeks ago when King Z was like, hey, dude, what about that new Dune show or that new Dune thing? I was like, that game, that MMO coming out in January? He's like, nah, show. And I have no idea what you're talking about. So he said, we should check it out. It's Dune show. It's prequel. Looks good. Good, by HBO Max. They got the whole Penguin thing going for them. They had the Last of Us thing going for them last year, kind of on a hot streak with shows. And then we got Dune Prophecy, which from everything I read on Twitter for the last, day and a half or whatever, said it's Game of Thrones in space. And I said, Game of Thrones in space. Sounds like my wheelhouse. That sounds kind of cool. Maybe a little Babylon 5-y, you know what I mean? A little faction here, crossing up, intrigue, politics, all that good stuff. I said, I can be down for that. And then I watched the show and decided I'm going to let King Z talk first. So I can just kind of sit on it and stew a little bit longer. But dude, let me get your initial take on Dune Prophecy episode 1. So what did you think?
So going in, based on the preview of the show that I saw on Max, mostly during the opening of the Penguin, is I knew it was going to happen before the Paul Atreides and the events of Dune. I didn't know it was going to be this far before the events.
Is this the longest in the past sequel? Prequel, but it came after the movie. You know what I'm talking about? Is this the longest time removed from like the original offering in movie history? I think it might be. I
mean, based off of the show that we shall not mention on this channel anymore, and how much time they put in their pretty much prequel show, I think this is a more accurate version of going back in time, so you don't mess up the main timeline.
Dude, you're talking about like 10,000 years. It said like the show starts and then it gives you a little time jump of 30 years where like the show is going to take its regular course. And then it also reminds you it's 10,148 years before the birth of Paul Atreides, who of course is the main character in the two popular recent Dune movies.
Yes.
It's 10,000 years ago. That's how you step out of your prime timeline and do some stuff, because no one can connect that. No one.
But going in, I mean, it had a strong cast going in, so I was expecting something pretty good. I wasn't disappointed. I thought it was a very deep, like it's not a action-packed show. No. It's going to be a deep thought, like political backstabbing and playing, and like watching houses grow and fall, and like how they got to where they are in Dune. So I think this is going to be a fun show to watch, especially if you're into the Dune lore.
Yeah, I think you need that. That will definitely help you. That's a booster shot from the rip about getting into the show. I think new fans or more casual fans that maybe only enjoyed the two films are going to have a tougher time getting into it, because this show, like the barrier to entry, if you don't know the lore, is you having to accept that there's got to be a lot of exposition and world building up front. Not quite on the level as the show that won't be named because they didn't do a good enough job of that anyway. But because this show, this is a very limited run. This is only 6 episodes, if I remember correctly. So they really don't have any kind of time to F around. So if they want to get you invested in the kind of rising houses, falling dynasties, political subterfuge, like if they want you to buy into that, they literally need to cram everything they have into you in episodes 1.5. Like I'm guessing like the halfway point of next week will be a little bit more of this, but then the execution of any conspiracy they're going with is going to have to start playing out. And I think we're going to get that because I saw some things in the teaser trailer for next week where the main character, Valia, older Valia, is like, and now it's up to me to figure out what exactly is going on. I'm like, so assuming that happens in that episode and that wasn't just a collage of the next 5 episodes, I would assume it is, because why would you wait until episode 6 to make that determination, that declaration? So I think they're going to have to move right along. But dude, man, this episode was tough. It actually, at a pretty busy work day today, I'm not going to lie, this one actually knocked me out for about 7 minutes at about the point where the emperor was talking to his wife about having second thoughts about the wedding. I had to go back and like rewind literally like 7 minutes of time and pick it up from there, because it's like you said, there's the show opens with a bit of action because they give you the
backstory.
Right, the story of overthrowing the thinking machines. And I know a lot of people were upset that they called it that and didn't reference it specifically to the Butlerian Jihad. And I'm a Star Wars guy. They were talking about, oh, that thing that happened with that space station. Like, no, that was the Death Star. Like, say it, say the thing. You know, like you're catering to me, the diehard fan, not the Johnny Come Lately. So they open with about 5 seconds of that, and then there really wasn't much in the way of action in that sense until we're doing spoilers. We should probably do spoilers. I don't think this is that kind of whatever. You've been warned. We're gonna do spoilers here. The death of the prince, the young duke's son at the very end of the episode kind of borders on action. It was violent, but not in a fisticuffs violent kind of way. But that was kind of the emotional violence of the episode was at the end. But in between, it came really close for me. And I say this to you all the time. It was very much a feelings in places vibe. And I get it. It's episode 1. So they get something of a pass for that, because you have to, set your deck up. You can't just jump into shootouts and car chases, because that doesn't work either. Like, I don't care if 3 of your main characters die in a big shootout in episode 1. Like, what do I give a shit? You know what I mean? Like, they didn't decapitate Ned Stark in episode 1. You know why? Because it would have been dumb. It would have been dumb. You know,
the only way that would work if they decapitated Ned Stark in episode 1 is if they then showed how do we got to this point.
How do we get to this? Exactly. In a kind of a weird, less, more serious, my name is Earl kind of version, like the setup at the beginning of the episode with the monologue. I could see that. But yeah, it's this show. I see what they were trying to do by drawing you in with the humans charging the robots. You're like, oh my God, it's some Terminator vibes. Here it is. It's the Matrix. We know what this is. And then no, because then it switches, it completely 180s into everything about the sisterhood school. And they didn't call them by their name either. And because I'm wondering, is that because they're not them yet? Is that
they're
what
not
that
them
is?
Yet? That's right.
Okay. There we go. Okay. See, I was thinking a little bit while I was sleeping.
So what I believe this series is going to be is going to be a patchwork of a lot of the Legends books of the Dune series, written by Brian Herbert, which is the son of Frank Herbert, who originally wrote it. Okay. I think they're going to build it in Frank's world, but they're going to use the writing of Brian to tell their story, because of course they referred to the the Benedictine Jihad is the
Butlerian Jihad is the war against the machine. Butlerian, which is kind of funny, but they can use the word.
Which a lot of people believe that the Matrix is actually the prequel to that.
Oh, like talking headcanon wise.
Yeah.
People think like that. I can see that.
The events of the Matrix happen, and then it leads to this, because it is on Earth that this all happens before they start.
It's like some Battlestar Galactica that's happened before, it'll happen again kind of thing.
Yeah.
I can dig that. I like headcanon theory like that for Reddit.
And then out of all we saw mostly through our lives is remaking of Frank Herbert's Dune, like the 80s movie, the made for TV series that was the sci-fi series, and then of course the remakes now with Mr. Chalamet. Yeah. So what we're seeing is stuff that we've never seen before, and it's the first time they actually referred to as the of the God Emperor Leo Atreides in this, and the whole bringing the death of the Empire down. What do they call it? Their Armageddon, where she says, "I see it."
Was it the Reckoning?
Yeah, the Reckoning.
Her sign is the burning truth. That's what she was told she was going to see. by the Mother Superior at the beginning. They had a fake made up name for what the reckoning was called in their language. Those two words start with a T. Tira Aliyam something. I can't remember what it was. I know you're talking about that. I got you.
But yeah, that's the start of the reckoning. It's the first time that they referred to that, which refers to the burning, which we get to later when we meet. Oh man, what's his name? I gotta pull it up. Hold on, I got it all right here. Not Karen. Desmond Hart.
Desmond.
We get to see it. We get to see it a little bit more. And that's why, like, throughout the whole Dune universe, a lot of people who are like Star Wars fans who switched over to Dune, they see a lot of the same vibes because a lot of Star Wars was taken from it. The whole voice is the Jedi mind trick.
Yep.
They took the voice and turned into the Jedi mind trick. That was the only thing that was truly stolen from Dune to Star Wars. But what a lot they say is like, where's the droids? And if you know the story of Dune, it's been outlawed. Thinking machines have been outlawed. No matter what tech you see, it's always driven by humans or human-esque, because you see
they're machines. There's no AI. They're not intuitive or learning like they say.
Now you have to think these books were written in the 60s and 70s, and like all the humans start changing themselves by the use of drugs and like enhancements. That's why the Harkonnens look so much different in the Dune book than they do here. Like everybody looks human in this because
this is right after the war was over, right?
So they haven't started augmenting themselves and taking drugs to change their DNA and stuff like that. So that's why they're so different in the later books than they are here. So the book series in the expanding universe that this is going to take a lot of it is called the Sisterhood of Dune. And that's where we first see Valia in the book series, a young Valia and her sister Tula.
Yep.
So this is what they're going to take this, and they're going to keep going back in time. As we saw, there are going to be more like flashback scenes in the coming episodes.
Because young Valia and young Tula were in the teaser for like the future episodes coming. So yeah, they're definitely not done.
So I definitely
get more reference points like that.
So I definitely think they're going to take stuff from these books, but writing their own story, piece it together to tell their own story of it, like how they see it playing out without actually following the book page by page, chapter by chapter.
Which is probably for the best, because anyone that's familiar with any of the Dune written material anyway, it's not written in a format that probably translates well for 21st century attention spans, for starters. It is a tough read even for us older guys that like this kind of genre stuff. Like, it's not written in a straightforward way at all. But I'll tell you this, I feel better knowing now that at least I've heard hit or miss stuff about the son's writings within the universe. I haven't read any personally, so I won't comment. Just that it seems to be a kind of a common consensus that that none of it really hits the way that the original Dune novels did. But it still makes me feel better knowing that this show is based on the kind of backstory and canon and lore that other franchises, Star Wars, claim that they didn't have to draw from. So even if it wasn't superior offerings compared to the original, at least it's somebody was trying to write stuff with the intention of honoring which came before. Because I can't imagine Dune Jr. would have written out a bunch of crap that would have undermined what his father wrote, considering they're translated into 40 languages and have sold 8 trillion copies.
Yeah, he would have done. His books were kind of like his love letter to his dad, who passed away when he was young. So I don't think he would have undermined it, because this is supposed to be his swan song to his father. So
right, be like if Chris Tolkien wrote his own follow-up, Hobbit book for the professor, and not the wicked grandkids and great grandkids who don't care and gave us Rings of Power. Rings of Power season 3 still not been picked up for season 3, by the way. Throwing that out there. $1 billion. Not happening. But this show here is we didn't really tell anybody kind of how the show works. The setup here is that the sisterhood is kind of tasked with guiding the Imperium. So whoever's the emperor of the time typically has one of their truth sayers kind of associated with him, or planted in the palace to be his advisor and his guide. But really, I mean, they're loyal to the sisterhood first, and then to the emperor of the Imperium second. Like, it's all about the sisterhood calling shots, and they believe that, and they legitimately, I think, believe they're acting in like society or humanity's best interest. Like it doesn't seem to be that they profit or that they enjoy any kind of advantage for having the power that they have. Like they live like monk lifestyles. Like they're not up in ivory towers. So I think they believe right now anyway that they're trying to do the right thing by guiding the emperor according to the sisterhood and Mother Superior's wishes.
Well, it goes with a lot with that very open quote where wars are celebrated in the light, but they're won in the dark.
One in the dark. That
And
was dope.
one of the things to really think about is that they work in the shadows. They advise, they control, they manipulate from behind closed doors by whispers in people's ears. And they started off as pretty much human lie detectors because one, you don't have droids. I mean, think of it as like the early Bene Gesserits as protocol droids. That's pretty much their role in this universe. And they have that power to tell when people are writing. There's something they developed to start getting that influence. And the first Mother Superior there, because you have to think like a lot of this was written with religious undertones. So
of course,
the Bene Gesserit was
heavy.
written like space nuns.
Yep. With ninja skills and force powers.
Which they didn't have, as you saw that. We saw that in the opening where
it was shocking. That was a good part. Yeah. That was strong.
Man, I just said her name too. Valia.
Young Valia. Yep.
Yeah, young Valia used the voice, the first one to ever use the voice, which we all saw in the Dune, where you saw the mother use it and trying to train her son
Jessica
who use
Paul.
it. Yeah. And she used it on the Harkonnen soldiers that were supposed to kill both of them and leave them in the desert. So this was the first time the voice has ever been used. So a lot of the Bene Gesserit powers and the stuff that they've cultivated over the years didn't exist at this point. So at this point they were just the truth tellers. And that's how they marketed themselves to get into the great houses, to start manipulating relationships and birthing so they could have the better leadership so they can get themselves in power. And
I appreciated that about that early part of the show is they spelled out what their plan was pretty clearly. And it really does show some of the back webbing that the Dune movie gave us, where Jessica was supposed to be with Paul's dad to have Paul. That way Paul would be loyal to his mom, who was a Bene Gesserit operative and could be more easily controlled. They basically spelled out like verbatim in this show where like they have a genetic codex and they match up who would be the best fit for what to get a strong line on the thrones. I mean, they laid that out there pretty good. If I had to do my weekly episode of I didn't understand that one thing and maybe you can explain it, if their goal is that, what happens with the part from the beginning where they're like, we need to get a sister on the throne? Because that never comes to pass, right? Like, so they must fail in that mission, right?
So what you do see is it's actually with the emperor, it's actually an empress. He's not the emperor. Right. He's the husband of the empress, but in the society of Dune, that men are still the ones who handle all the business. So they have the voice of power, even though it's an empress on the throne. And that's why they're trying to get... I
didn't pick that up. I thought they were trying to replace the emperor, who actually was the end all be all say all, with a woman. I was like, I don't think that's how that works.
He's not the emperor. He's just the husband of the empress.
He's the empress consort.
Yeah,
don't they call him the emperor? Don't they call him that though?
I don't think
they address him as Majesty. I thought. I mean, maybe they didn't use the word emperor.
Maybe they do call him emperor because he's married, but it's actually the empress who's in charge.
Oh, so she has like the legal authority, like within the government, to like write treaties and do that kind of crap.
But based on the culture, men do all the talking to each other and make all the plans.
Which is why he was making the deal with the Duke and to secure the fleet and doing the Game of Thrones meld the houses wedding kind of thing. Okay.
And that's why they were trying to get that wedding between the 9-year-old and the princess. So after she goes to school, she'll come back when her mom dies. She will be the empress and on the throne. This was to finish up everything that they've been working for 30 years.
Got it. Okay. All right. Well, let's talk characters then, right? Because I think that the show speaks for itself. It really is it's to set things in motion to make that wedding happen. Gunk gets thrown in the works, and a couple of I guess that they're probably key players, really. The king's main advisor, the truth sayer, Kasha, she dies. She dies in the burning. And it's interesting because she dies on Wallach 9, like the Bene Gesserit base planet. I'll call its home base. At the same time, the 9-year-old Duke's son, Pruitt, who was just married or whatever, is murdered, also via the burning perpetrated by Desmond Hart. So, which did this character Desmond Hart, who I want to talk about first? There's magic in this world. He can light people on fire internally. Like, how does this work?
So there's been no magic in these worlds. What they think is that's a form of technology that he found and embedded in him. That's what the stars are in his eyes.
In his eyes.
And like you see, he touched his face and he turned his head.
Yeah.
And that's
they mentioned that in the after credits too. So my character Kasha noticed the scars by his eyes. Okay.
Yeah, so it's probably some type of technology that he's using. And because of the connection between everything is why she burned up and the kid burned up, because she was connected to that house.
So, okay. All right. You're saying that she could die a galaxy away somewhere else that he wasn't, because she was connected to the house Desmond was in. It's like his technology burned through the house and got her.
That's what's believed. But I think that's something we will see more explained and ironed out in future episodes.
Yeah, that's because I thought that was weird, because I had to go back and check. I'm like, no, didn't the Mother Superior tell her to stay? Because I thought maybe she went back to that planet. I thought she went to Secundus. But then I'm like, no, she died with all the other sisters. They're on Wallach 9. So I'm like, no, she didn't go back yet. She was supposed to stay the night. And then Tula basically said, no, you have to let her go back. That's her job. But she hadn't got there yet. It was, night had just, taken over. All right, so I'll put a pin in that. So that character, interesting, not as intimidating as I'd like him to be, even though he did a kid. That was kind of savage, and that was kind of rough to watch. I'm like, I don't need really graphic kids dying. Like, they tried to pull the Game of Thrones punch with that, like, blatantly. Like, that was on the nose, I thought. I'm like, I get it. You're trying to be like, okay, we're not like every other show. We're going to kill a kid. Like, you tried that. Like, okay, I respect you. But what do you think of that character, though? What do you think of Desmond Hart? Is he legit? Does he? We need more. I mean, we probably need more, right?
Yeah, we need more, because I think they cast him in enough mystery where it makes you want to have more. I think that they did that quite well, and how he's still loyal to the Emperor. It is Emperor. Right. I just pulled it up on IMDb.
Okay.
How he's still loyal to the Emperor. To the Emperor's like, I wish there was a way I could get out of this marriage.
I remember that. I'm like, okay, this kid's dead.
Yeah,
the minute he said that sentence, I'm like, the kid's dead, obviously. But the Desmond character is the one that the Emperor was viewing on the Hollow screen later, right?
Yes.
In the desert, facing down, super warm with the sand pounding devices.
Yeah, you hear the thumpers. So it looks like they were make it look like it was a Fremen raid on their harvester, where he was saying that it's another house that raided him.
Right, he was saying it was inside job kind of.
Yep. And then
they're building up that kind of intrigue. I'll give them that.
And I mean, the thumper would definitely destroy the evidence of whoever did it, because the sandworm would come.
Swallow it whole.
Yep. But it was like you saw the sandworm come, and like he gets trapped underneath the mouth. So something happened, and that is where he found whatever he found to give him who he is now. Like he's even a little bit off. Like he looks like someone who has PTSD, but he's still trying to act normal. They did Nigerian candidate type feel to it.
Yeah, I was feeling that vibe from him. Like I was like, all right, is he gonna go the drunken, like Johnny Depp, Jack Sparrow route? Like, is that where we're going here? Or are we gonna get the comically PTSD, like war hero survivor thing? Because I don't think that works either in the context of the show. Because the show wants you to take it seriously. Like, there's no gag here.
No,
like, it's not supposed to be funny. So I'm like, all right, so he's an odd duck, and we don't know really what his motivation is yet.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like we're not there yet.
Yeah, we don't know what his driving force is, other than him being loyal to the Emperor.
and that he's an alleged lone survivor of an inside job that he needs to expose, because that's kind of the bulk of what he's saying to the kid. The kid asks him before he dies, "Are you a soldier?" He says, "Yes." The kid says, "There's no war here," and he goes, "No, there's a war here. Only I can see it." You know what I mean? And mechanisms of control, and we fought a war against the machines, like the toy you have, that was an interesting scene too. At the wedding where he breaks out the toy and everybody freaks out, like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah,
He's like, "No, we fought a war against control, a thinking machine, right? We fought a war against them, but we're still being controlled. Why is that? How can that be?" So like, okay, so they're asking questions and they're kind of pointed and poignant. I mean, that works. I'm like, I dig that character. The other character I wanted to ask you about is the princess, because I think she obviously has a massive role coming in this show.
Yes.
Where aside from being the only attractive female on this show, and that pains me to say because I was hoping that wouldn't be the case. Is she the only likable person so far, outside of her saying she was going to stab the kid, but it's kind of his own fault?
Well, yeah,
I don't really like anybody else yet.
That's more of her just reacting to him having something illegal.
Well, and she was protective of him too. When the Empress stepped up to him, like, be out of the way, she ducked the kid behind him. And I'm like, okay, so they're going to go the route. This is how she gets the profound bonding with the kid from an early age, because she protected him. But then 8 seconds later, she's like, "If you ever do that shit again, I'll stab you." I'm like, okay.
Yeah. And then she goes out. She goes out to the city with her brother and
gets high and bangs the sword master. Okay.
Yeah. Which, by the way, is a made up character.
Okay, so that's not technically Paul's 47-time great granddaddy.
No, he is a made up character. So from the lore, God Emperor Atreides, I forget his name, I think it's like Leo. We'll call him Leo Atreides. During his time as God Emperor, he could travel without the use of the Navigational Guild?
The Navigators. Yeah, the Navigators.
Yeah. He could travel on the spice on his own. And he was the first one to do augmentations. Like, every picture I saw of him is like he's like his own sandworm. He has a worm type body.
Oh wow, okay, weird.
Yeah. But he went to many worlds and populated it with Atreides. He had his fun, as they said, as he went around the galaxy.
He went all coming to America. So the royal oats. Okay,
yeah.
That he can do that.
That's how the Atreides. Actually, but they needed the Atreides name in this because it's a very attachable name. It's one of the three major households that they built in the Dune universe. So he is a made up Atreides. He never existed in the books, but they needed him for the plot device.
Makes sense. It and his simple existence adds depth to the princess, who now they have a point of conflict that they can use. If she doesn't want to commit to the path that she's been put on with joining the sisterhood, she might not. Now that with the boy prince dying, like there's a romantic entanglement that she can have a little bit more freely now with the sword master. He's obviously going to die in the next 2 episodes because there's no happy ending coming on this show. Sorry to inform everybody, this is not going to be a Disney princess show. But I like this chick. She's attractive. She seems like she's charming in like a normal kind of way. She seems fierce when she needed to be. She didn't girl boss the sword master on day 1 while they were training. In fact, like he tried to gas her up a little bit, and she was like, "No, I didn't." Like he's like, "Oh, you almost had me that time," and she's like, "No, I really didn't." So I mean, I kind of like her for that already. I'm not sure how I feel about her brother. I think he's a douchebag. I'm not sure. He had a funny moment with Mother Superior where he looked like he was angling for better accommodations for his sister, and then he cracks a smile and a joke. I'm like, okay, maybe I do like you. Maybe you're not a DB. Maybe you're all right. I don't know if you had any thoughts on that character, or if he's a nobody. He's got to be someone, right? Like somebody important for the story.
I think he's going to be cannon fodder.
You think so? You think he gets shredded to make a point to her? Because they seem tight. Like they did that bond good. I like that, the brother sister thing.
Yeah, I think he's someone who's going to die.
Okay.
In some shape or form, he's going to die, and it's going to push something forward, either on her or like something big. Is like his death is actually going to mean something.
Is he the episode 3 death? Like, is that who he is? He's that guy. Okay, like his car will get blown up, like car bombed or something like that, and she's gonna be like, "Oh my god, I must join the sisterhood and take my vows," like that.
Yeah.
It's gonna be that kind of thing. Okay, yeah, yeah. And you and I have plotted these character deaths out in like every series we've watched. Like it's not hard. Like we can pick them out early. Like who do you like? Who seems not to be an a-hole? What's their connection to the main character? And how can I hurt that main character? Like those are the questions. That's like the roadmap. So yes, if they party together and they're blowing spice together, and he knows about the sword master, he can tell. There's no shot he doesn't know. That would be interesting though, if some kind of duel happened because he didn't know. And he's like, hands off my sister, bro. He's like, nah, bro, I love her, bro.
Yeah,
bro, like that whole thing.
Yeah, one of the things I did like is that he's the sword master, which goes to the whole Atreides fighters being the best fighters in the world. With the like going into the Dune series. So I do like that tie-in, like even 10,000 years before House Atreides goes to Arrakis, they are the sword masters of the.
It's very fantasy trope, isn't it? Like, isn't that one of the good ones? Like for thousands of years, the Jedi are defenders of peace and justice. It's the same thing here with the Atreides. You know what I mean? Like they're just it. I think a good flip of that, and I enjoyed this, and we haven't talked about the Harkonnens at all, is we see the low level version of the Harkonnen family.
Yeah.
In this show, it opens up with Valia, who's formerly a Harkonnen before she took her vows or whatever, and like they're saying, like that's on the thumbnail, the story of victory against the machines spun by the Atreides is a lie. They say my grandfather deserted, and then Atreides, 10 times 1,000 senior was the victor. So we're probably going to get more expose on that, which is good. But I like the version of young, I think he was just a baron, where he's trying to talk up the Empress at the wedding and being like, listen, whale fur is it. We can make a mint doing this. Do we tell you about whale seed? And he's that powerless guy trying to angle for 5 minutes at a time.
Yeah,
and he gets snubbed. And I'm like, oh, this is why 10,000 years from now your family makes its move. Okay.
Yeah.
The long plan.
And he's not he's not even a baron. Like they don't have any political hold in the.
I thought the Empress called. Maybe it was his name. I mean, it could have just been his name. I'm pretty sure he said the word, but I don't think it was his rank. It's like he's basically a nobody. Like he's a merchant at this point, because the sisters dump on him too, where they're like, oh, they sent in a fourth request for a truth sayer, and old Valia's like, fuck them, tell them no for the fourth time.
Yeah, just
send somebody.
Valia is very ashamed of her last name,
right,
of the house she's from, because of the stories about them. So she's trying to hide that part of her life.
Right.
And this is before they have their fiefdom. That's why he's not a baron yet. You have to have a fiefdom to be a baron. They're on a back world.
I might have just heard him say that.
Yeah, they're on the back world. Yeah, selling whale
fur.
Yeah.
Seed.
And seed, yeah. It has municipal purposes.
Medicinal purposes. I'm like, the show likes its drugs, so I'll give them that. Interesting choice.
Like I said, the original one was written in the 60s and the 70s. So
he wasn't playing. He was not kidding. Because the spice is basically like worm poo, and now they're telling me like whale spooge is also medicinal. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting choice, Frank Herbert. Just saying. I mean, it's not quite as bad as Stephen King doing like underage sex scenes in it with groups of kids. I mean, that's pretty weird. I mean, if Frank Herbert's all just doing like whale poo or whale spooge, okay. I guess by comparison, it's not as bad. It's not as offensive. But I like what this show is setting up. I just wish, like, to just draw the comparison to the Penguin, right? You and I both knew after an episode of the Penguin we were watching something special. Hands down. The performances were like the several performances were electric. The story was compelling. There was enough, because it's a gangster show. It's a mob show. There was enough violent action, like every 10 minutes for an hour, ending with like this dude getting piano wire under his arm and watching like a teenager carjacking him get shot in the face. Like there were no punches pulled that whole episode in like intervals. This show, like nothing's blown me away yet. And that concerns me because it only has the 6 episodes. What do you say to that?
Like I said, like this is going to be more of a thinker, like just trying to have. It's more of the political intrigue. I think House of Cards would be a better comparison than Game of Thrones. Like if Game of Thrones and House of Cards mixed together, you would have this type of show set in space.
Are you concerned about what they have available for time to tell such a complex story, because Game of Thrones gives you 10 episodes or 8 or whatever they do, 8 to 10. If this only has 6, even if they run that hour, I'm like, how complicated can this story be? You really only can have now this, what the sisterhood wants, and whatever probably their one obstacle is to getting it, like one unknown, like if Desmond Hart is the guy, is the antagonist to their will. Like you can only tell that story. There's no room for not B plots. I mean, every episode's gonna have a B plot. You know what I mean? There's no side quest time at all to develop anybody. So I have a concern about that, which is the 6 episodes. I wonder if this is one of those things where somebody turned in a draft for Dune Prophecy feature film, and they're like, "Fuck it, we can make 6 episodes out of that. Let's add some filler. We're gonna have a club scene for 20 minutes, and we'll do that every episode times 1."
I don't
You know
think
what I mean?
that
Like, I don't know.
HBO has a good track record of
They do.
telling a good story, and
They do.
maybe they realize it couldn't fill 8 episodes, so let's just do
Fair.
6. So that way we
Fair.
won't have the filler in the 20-minute club scene, or going on a side quest to find a hacker that leads to nothing.
Yeah. Or the whole casino part in its entirety, and not just the hacker part of that. Yeah, no, that was embarrassing.
Yeah.
You know who you are, TLJ. You know who you are. And you're right, though, and maybe that was unfair that I referenced the club scene, because there was a point there. It was to put her and the Swordmaster together.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't random. I got high with my brother at a club, and which sounded suspiciously like every 2005 techno club ever.
Yeah. And they were just them dancing the night away, and then it cuts back to the
she's just trashed in her bed, like all just like laid out. Yeah, no, she got with, and there's a witness to their hookup, that there was a blue-eyed chick. Now, whether or not that turns into anything, I don't know. Maybe they just threw that in there for the same reason that they had to mention an Atreides. You know what I mean? Oh, people know the blue eyes from Dune because of the posters and the 2 movies that just came out. Have this other black chick with blue eyes also be in here. Or maybe maybe that's a loose end later for something.
So the blue eyes means that either she's been into constant contact with Spice, or she's a Fremen, because the Fremen has constant contact with Spice.
But I'm saying, as a visual, I wonder if they threw that in there the same way we had to mention. Oh no, there's Skywalkers in this other Star Wars movie. Trust us, they're coming. Because you need that tie-in. You know what I mean? It'd be like making an X-Men movie and not referencing Wolverine or Professor X. Like, no, they almost obligatorily need to be there. You know, so blue eye, like crystal blue, like, you know, VFX eye needed to be there. So
yeah,
I don't know. It's interesting so far.
So one of the takes I want to talk about, and I want to get your opinion on this, is how weak the Emperor actually looks in this. Like, from the beginning, where he's like forced into that deal for the wedding, his daughter marrying an 8-year-old so he can get his fighter ships, and like how that dude is like manipulating them, and then
I want to punch that guy.
And of course, the Bene Gesserit wants that marriage to happen so they can get what they want. So he's being told there, and then the whole happy of the thinking machine at the wedding, and then he like kind of like, we could let this pass. And he like backs down again. Yeah. And it wasn't until he was there talking with Desmond where you see that he's been manipulated his whole time he's been on the throne. And he has no backbone anymore.
No backbone at all, dude. And I know you'll understand the reference. Some of our listeners may not. He reminds me of the king from the first Law trilogy, not the old man. Like when Jezzel becomes king, like he's just a figurehead. He's nobody. He has no power. The council runs everything. In this case, like you said, outside interests have manipulated because the Bene Gesserit say so. We're weakening him on Arrakis at the same time we're propping up this wedding here. Like the Bene Gesserit in this show are the effing Lannisters in Game of Thrones. Like they have all the 4D chess moves laid out, all of them. You know what I mean? So I both love and hate that version of the Emperor here, because it's kind of like how I said, we were talking about Star Trek one time, and I said one of the weakest sci-fi tropes that I always hate in anything is the enemy within trope, or like the shapeshift, like the guy that can assume the form of like the real president and throw that guy in a closet and then run shit into the ground. Like, I hate that, but I also love it at the same time. It just irks me.
If it's done right,
Yeah, right. That's what I mean. Right. The powerless power figure is kind of like that to me. I'm like, oh, dude, just shoot one of them. The rest of them will fall right in line. You just got to shoot one of them. You can't back down in front of your wife twice because he knows that like she's connected to the Bene Gesserit, right? Like, isn't that the point? That like all the like that the women make the recommendations of who to have the truth says, and like the wife's in on it, just like Jessica in Dune. Like Paul's dad knew who she was, where she came from, and how that wasn't the match his parents wanted for him, but like that's what he thought he chose and shit. Like, you know, like maybe you just take the Duke ships anyway, annex that ass.
So a little bit of that was that she was there to just be a normal Bene Gesserit and advise. He fell in love with her and brought her
in Jessica
in Dune. Yeah, Jessica and Dune. And
that's right, because the mother was pissed at her. That's right. I remember now.
And then they changed what she's supposed to do after that. Like they changed their plans because he took her as a wife.
Or she wasn't supposed to give birth to Paul, right? Wasn't that the point?
Yeah, it was only supposed to be girls.
She was pregnant. It was supposed to be a girl, right? And she was supposed to terminate, and she didn't. And somehow they didn't kill her for that. But that's neither here nor there. That's a different movie. But yeah, on this show, it's like I want Mark Strong's a good actor. We just saw him in The Penguin. He was great in that as Falcone.
Yep.
Give him something to do. Like I hope he has some kind of arc on this show in 6 episodes that lets him do something except literally be Cersei, where he's just standing in the balcony looking at the waterfall. Like, dude, jump, like fucking jump. Then, like I'm good.
Yeah. I think
you know what I mean?
You're going to see him grow in power, and that's where Desmond comes in
He's
to help him.
One of these women,
and help him find that hey, your voice matters. And it doesn't always have to come from these women. It doesn't have to come from your advisors. You have a voice, and I think that's where Desmond comes in at.
Which and that'd be another 4D chess move if like the Bene Gesserit sent him to manipulate him into making some other choice that they wanted him to make that he thought was his own choice. I mean that's 8D chess at that point. Like I'd take that. Like that'd be kind of cool. Dude, we gotta do at least a nitpick before we break out of this show. Here's my nitpick of the episode. So 9-year-old Prince Charming gets out of bed. He's walking around barefoot. He sits down against a wall. He's got his little toy that is illegal and almost got him executed or whatever he still has. That's not the nitpick. The nitpick is he dies screaming and somehow there's no surveillance and no security guards on him in 5 seconds. Like in Game of Thrones, when the king or like the lords, ladies, and whoever leave their chambers, there's 2 dudes outside the door that follow them 3 steps behind. Where was this kid's detail? Like he got out of bed and wandered around inside like his part of the compound and fucking nobody was there. Nobody heard this shit. Desmond just walking around like, I killed a kid.
So if you want to,
what is that about?
If you want to tie it back to Game of Thrones, remember how Arya got down into the dungeons where they had the bones of the dragons?
I don't remember how she got down there, but it was a bunch of hidden paths and shit.
She didn't have her 2 guards with her. She didn't have people following her around the Red Keep.
There was a reason for that though. It's like the first time she found it, I remember that. And then like when they took her father hostage, she just randomly found her way back in it. That's why she didn't have the guards then. There's a reason why she didn't have the detail up front. And I think it was just that she slipped them. This kid's 9 and it's like the middle of the night. No kid's getting out of the bedroom that way. It wasn't even his house. They were visiting. He's the Duke's kid.
Yeah, it wasn't at the Emperor's house. I mean, it could be like the Red Keep where you believe you're safe inside, so they don't have.
That's true. Then why are we letting Desmond walk around then? Really, no one's doing a background check on this guy. Walks out of the desert, sole survivor, war hero. That's good enough.
Yeah, he's an honored war hero.
I don't know. At the same time, the Emperor's looking at him on the sand hologram, being all weird with the giant worm and shit. Like I don't know, man. Seems kind of sketchy. If I was Junior Daddy, if I was Junior Duke's daddy, I'd be asking to pull them security tapes. Show me that shit. Show me the scarred faced man. I want to talk to this guy who set my kid on fire. Let's talk post show though. They talked up how amazing that VFX were to get people burned, and I'm like, Game of Thrones does this every Sunday. I'm not that impressed. And they sizzled. It was concerning, but I don't think that was quite the knockout of the park they thought it was, just for me as a dragon guy.
I mean, for it to be active, like the dragon fire burns them instantly, so it's pretty much just them straight to charcoal. You don't actually watch.
Yeah, but
them,
they got to animate the effect though. You know what I mean? Like they were like we had Bernie skin, and like Freddy Krueger has Bernie skin. I don't know. I just wasn't impressed by that part. I was impressed by the scene, by the moment, but like they specifically mentioned that in the after show, the interview stuff, and I'm like, that's, I don't know, that's scraping the bottom. Maybe you just should have skipped that part. But did you have a nitpick from the show at all, or is it just everything was just kind of smooth sailing, vanilla enough not to be offensive but effective, and wanting to see episode 2?
Yeah, I think so. I don't really have any like, I didn't see any big plot holes or anything like that. I think we will start, if there are any, we'll start seeing them in episode 2 and build into episode 3. I think episode 1, like you said, usually gets a pass because they have to set the stage
So much in such a short amount of time too. If they only have 6, I really you can't hate them for just kind of like rushing through like 2 planets, 10 characters.
And I think it's trying to say to
lines.
that, like you're not going to get many planets. You're not actually going to see
shouldn't.
Arrakis. It's all going to be on the witch's home planet and the emperor planet. So that's the only 2 that's actually going to be seen, I believe, in this.
And that makes sense too, because that means also the bulk of what they're going to show you on Emperor Planet is probably the palace, which I thought looked really cool. I mean, we talk about design a lot. Set design, like that opening shot, the establishing shot of the palace from outside, that is a massive structure. That was almost like Warhammer 40K big, like in terms like just like this giant thing that's bigger than trees everywhere for like miles.
It's funny that you say Warhammer 40K because that is heavily influenced by Dune.
Oh, I believe it.
A lot of the stuff that they do is based off of the Dune
the Imperium. Yeah,
the God Emperor.
Yeah, no crossover inspired by for that at all. But yes, on that point, I think we're going to see there's going to be just those same kind of 3 shots of the palace, like the throne room, the waterfall, fire pit area that the Emperor was setting out with Desmond, maybe another spot. And then on Wallach 9, the Bene Gesserit planet, they're going to have that room that has the water in the middle, the private chambers where Tula and Valia talk in private, and then the dorm, because we're going to get more of the girls.
Yeah, we're going to get more of the trainees. I mean, there wasn't much to real talk about other than them developing their skills. Like you see them learning how to be the truth sayers, and then you see like 2 or 3 of them that have their different.
They're a little standout.
Yeah, they're standout personalities and everything. Yeah. Now,
they get mentioned at the end, so we know we're getting something specific, a plot point for all of them to follow. Into the next thing. I'm sorry, what were you going to say about?
I was saying about that rain scene where they were talking about like the director was out there with them.
Yeah, that was cool. That was cool. Yeah. If I can do it, you guys can do it. I'm like, okay, see, that's kind of cool. Like again, and I feel like so far like when we watched The Penguin, every one of those scenes at the end of the episode, they were doing something really insightful. They were explaining how a character motivation worked in a certain part, and maybe there just wasn't enough of that in this episode for them to talk about in that way. Like the woman that played older Valia talks about, she thinks she has everything planned, but then one domino goes down and then it's thud, 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 thud. So I'm like, see, that's what I'm looking for. She's talking about like character motivations and intuitions, things like that. The other folks that did the post game this week, like the director, she was kind of a heavier set person. I didn't catch her name. It's like, oh, that was kind of fun. Okay. And like more. Like, tell me more about what you were thinking. Why did you make this creative decision? Why did you not make that creative decision? Like, if we get more of that, I'll be okay. But yeah, I think it's that stuff was the same as the episode. It was just vanilla enough not to be offensive, but it's not really. I don't think we're gonna see gangbuster numbers for this show, because I haven't seen any hype around it. Maybe we could just wrap up talking about that. Like, what's in the circles you follow on YouTube and social media? Is there a big buzz for this show? Because I didn't even know it was coming out, and I live online.
I see a lot of channels like there was a nerd one and another one called Shane, who they were really big into the lore, and they're really happy this is happening, to see the lore come to life.
That's cool. So for the hardcore, and again, we said that at the beginning, the hardcore fans that eat up everything in a particular IP, they're probably on board, and they're the people you have to impress. So, I mean, good for them if they're excited, but I don't think this gets even the kind of like broad base, like, let's be honest, like Penguin doesn't have a lot of broad base appeal. People think it's a superhero show. It's not. Not everybody's into mob stuff. Not everybody's into like gritty urban violence stuff. And it still did pretty good number wise. And it actually increased viewers week to week, which most shows do not. I don't think Dune Prophecy gets that unless something happens in episode 2 that like literally electrifies Twitter and sets shit on fire. And then people go, oh, I got to see what happens next. And I think that could happen. That can always happen in any show.
Yeah.
Except Acolyte.
And I think we'll see that more in episode 2 and episode 3, where we see the Bene Gesserit and Desmond start to interact more.
That I'm looking forward. That's probably the thing I'm looking forward to the most, is pitting whatever it is his power is. Because it's weird. It's new. Like it's confusing. I have no idea what's going on. I think the technology theory is probably solid, because I'd love to see that play out against the Bene Gesserit stuff, who for them, as they explained it, isn't supposed to be magic. It's just supposed to be like an evolution of what the human brain can do.
Yeah.
They've unlocked more function without having cybernetic augments or implants. They've just learned to expand what humanity is. So I'd love to see that versus technology. Like that would be kind of cool. I'd like to see that play out.
Yeah, like the voice itself is pretty much, it's at a different tone, and the way that they speak it,
it's just a resonance.
That resonance in your brain is someone you know and has authority over you.
So I'm with this. That's what I mean. Like, it's not a spell book. It's not ancient artifacts that aren't technology. You know what I mean? It's not like a demonic deal. It's not a Faustian deal. Like it's just, this is what humans can be. It's like Deus Ex, the game series. It's like, no, this is the next evolution of what people unleashed could be, you know, as we push our limits. So yeah, dude, I'm in for more. I'll probably fall asleep again next week when I watch it, but that's okay. I usually remember where I fall out, and I got to just rewind it. So, you know, we'll take it from there. Did you see anything about runtimes? It's HBO. We're guaranteed to get an hour every week, right? I don't have to worry about the 30-minute nonsense, the 25, then the 40, and then the.
We're not on that Mickey Mouse channel. We're playing with the big boys.
But we will be in 3 weeks when we get into Skeleton Crew, December. I'm not even going to do the promo.
7th.
I don't care. We're going to watch Skeleton Crew, whatever. This time you got it. No, it's not. It's the 3rd. It's not the 7th. It's the 3rd.
It's the 3rd.
You got it wrong again.
It's a Tuesday.
Dude, there's something I was joking with you when you got it wrong.
December 7th is Pearl Harbor Day. That's why it's stuck in my head.
I know. It's a day of infamy. I know. Which actually would be funny if they put out Skeleton Crew on that day and it bombed. Imagine that. That would be awful, but it could totally happen to them.
We could do it like, if it bombed, we could have like B-17s flying over and just dropping bombs.
It's too soon. It's too soon. It's still too soon. All right. I'm not even going to laugh my way through any kind of outro. We just did Dune Prophecy episode 1. It is Sundays, HBO Max. The regular airtime is 9 for folks that want to go check it out. So far, I'll say, guys, if you're curious about Dune, go check it out. I would take King Z's advice and watch some of those other lore channels that you might get a little extra insight that could be helpful. It might help you enjoy it a little bit more. It was a rough re-entry to me after having seen Dune 2 like a year ago. And I'm like, okay, because none of these people are in the show. It's kind of it doesn't translate perfectly like a new Batman show into like the Penguin or anything like that. So without any further ado, to King Z for the profound outro.
Well, if you do want to see our thoughts on Dune, we do have in our back catalog. And for our outro, I will say, see ya.